Beneath the waves of our blue planet, a green revolution is silently unfolding. Seaweed, an organism that has nourished Asian cultures for centuries but remained largely overlooked in the West, is emerging as an unexpected hero in our battle against climate change. This isn't just another environmental solution, it's a fundamental reimagining of humanity's relationship with the ocean. Join us as we dive into the remarkable world of seaweed and discover how these underwater forests are transforming ocean health, fighting climate change, and creating sustainable economies in ways we never imagined possible. The scale of seaweed's potential in our climate fight is staggering. According to studies published just last year in 2023, large-scale seaweed farming could sequester up to 2.6 billion tons of CO2 annually by 2050. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to more than 5% of our current global emissions. Unlike land plants that require fresh water, fertilizers, and arable land, seaweed needs none of these resources to thrive. The carbon capture mechanism is elegantly simple yet profoundly effective. As seaweed naturally fragments and sinks into the deep ocean, it removes carbon from the atmosphere-ocean exchange system. Researchers at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution have discovered that seaweed fragments sinking below 1,000 meters can lock away carbon for centuries or even millennia, creating what scientists now refer to as blue carbon sinks. This represents one of our most promising natural climate solutions. Among seaweed species, kelp stands out as a particularly remarkable carbon absorber. These underwater giants can grow at astonishing rates, up to 60 centimeters per day under ideal conditions. This rapid growth translates to extraordinary carbon sequestration efficiency. A single acre of kelp can actually sequester more carbon than an equivalent area of forest on land. This efficiency comes from seaweed's ability to directly absorb dissolved carbon dioxide from seawater. Since the Industrial Revolution, our oceans have absorbed approximately 30% of human-caused carbon emissions, leading to increasing acidification that threatens marine ecosystems. Kelp and other seaweeds actively counteract this process during photosynthesis, potentially creating localized refuges where pH levels remain more stable. This protective effect for surrounding marine life represents an additional benefit beyond the direct carbon sequestration, essentially creating safe havens for vulnerable marine species like shellfish and coral reefs that are particularly threatened by acidification. Seaweed cultivation is fundamentally changing our approach to marine ecosystems. The nonprofit organization Green Wave, founded by former commercial fisherman Bryn Smith, has pioneered an innovative vertical farming system that grows seaweed alongside shellfish in coastal waters. This revolutionary model has now spread across North America, Europe, and Asian waters, creating underwater gardens that require zero inputs while delivering remarkable ecological benefits. These farms function essentially as artificial reefs, increasing marine biodiversity by up to 30% in areas that were previously barren or degraded. Fish populations return to these newly created habitats, water quality improves as the seaweeds filter excess nutrients, and the surrounding ecosystem becomes more resilient overall. Perhaps most surprisingly, these seaweed farms can help buffer coastal communities against increasingly violent storms by absorbing wave energy, a critical function as climate change continues to intensify hurricane seasons and threaten coastal areas worldwide. The regenerative impact of seaweed extends to addressing another critical environmental challenge: nutrient pollution. Agricultural runoff rich in nitrogen and phosphorus creates coastal dead zones worldwide, but strategically placed seaweed farms in affected areas can efficiently absorb these excess nutrients. The filtering capacity is remarkable. A single hectare of seaweed can filter millions of gallons of ocean water daily, removing nitrogen at rates that make it one of our most efficient bioremediation tools available. In the Chesapeake Bay, where decades of nutrient pollution have devastated traditional fisheries, pilot seaweed farms are now helping restore water quality while simultaneously providing new economic opportunities for former fishermen who have seen their livelihoods threatened. This approach represents a fundamental shift from extractive to regenerative practices in our oceans. While traditional fishing and aquaculture often deplete resources or create pollution, Regenerative ocean farming actively improves environmental conditions while producing valuable crops. This paradigm shift aligns economic incentives with ecological restoration, potentially transforming coastal communities from resource extractors to ecosystem stewards. The economic potential of seaweed is driving rapid industry growth worldwide. The global commercial seaweed market was valued at approximately $16.7 billion in 2022 and is projected to reach $25 billion by 2028. This growth extends far beyond traditional uses in food and cosmetics, with innovative applications emerging at an unprecedented pace. Startup companies like Nopla have developed seaweed-based packaging that naturally biodegrades within weeks, potentially replacing millions of plastic containers that would otherwise persist in our environment for centuries. Meanwhile, Australian researchers have demonstrated that adding small amounts of a specific seaweed species, Asparagopsis taxiformis, to cattle feed can reduce methane emissions from cows by up to 98%, addressing one of agriculture's most significant climate impacts. The innovation doesn't stop there. Biotech firms are extracting compounds from various seaweed species for applications ranging from medical adhesives to biofuels, creating entirely new industries based on this versatile marine resource. The nutritional profile of seaweed also positions it as a significant player in future food systems. Seaweeds are rich in proteins, essential minerals, and unique bioactive compounds, offering solutions to nutritional challenges while requiring no arable land or fresh water. Some species contain complete proteins with all essential amino acids, while others provide rare micronutrients like iodine and omega-3 fatty acids that are difficult to source sustainably elsewhere. Food innovators are incorporating seaweed into everything from plant-based seafood alternatives to functional ingredients that improve the nutritional profile of everyday foods. This nutritional powerhouse could help address food security issues globally while reducing pressure on land-based agriculture systems. The diversity of seaweed species means there's an incredible variety of flavors, textures, and nutritional profiles available, from the umami-rich nori used in sushi to the mineral-packed dulse that some compare to bacon when fried. This economic diversification is particularly significant for coastal communities facing declining traditional fisheries due to climate change and overfishing. Seaweed farming offers a viable financial alternative that requires similar skills and local knowledge while contributing to rather than depleting ocean health. In Maine, where warming waters have devastated the once thriving lobster industry, former lobstermen are now cultivating kelp during winter months, creating year-round employment where seasonal work was once the norm. This transition not only provides economic stability but also transforms these workers' relationship with the ocean, from harvesters to cultivators who have a direct stake in maintaining healthy marine ecosystems. The relatively low barriers to entry for small-scale seaweed farming make it accessible to coastal communities worldwide, potentially creating millions of sustainable jobs while restoring marine environments. Despite its promise, the seaweed revolution faces significant hurdles that must be addressed for the industry to reach its full potential. Ocean farming permits remain complex in many countries, with farmers often navigating multiple regulatory agencies with overlapping jurisdictions. The United States has recently taken steps to address this through the BLU Act, introduced in Congress in late 2022, which aims to streamline aquaculture permitting while maintaining essential environmental safeguards. Scaling also presents technical challenges that researchers are working to overcome. Most seaweed farms today are relatively small operations in coastal waters, but realizing the full climate potential would require moving into deeper offshore environments. Companies like Running Tide in Iceland are pioneering technologies to deploy seaweed growth systems in the open ocean, using biodegradable buoys equipped with sensors to monitor growth and carbon sequestration. These innovations could dramatically expand the scale of seaweed cultivation beyond coastal zones. Perhaps most critically, scientists emphasize the need for careful ecological monitoring as the industry expands. While native seaweed farming benefits local ecosystems, introducing non-native species or creating large-scale monoculture farms could potentially disrupt marine food webs in unpredictable ways. This has prompted calls for science-based regulations that can foster industry growth while protecting ocean health. Researchers are studying how different farming densities and configurations affect surrounding ecosystems, developing best practices to maximize benefits while minimizing potential risks. The goal is to ensure that seaweed farming remains regenerative rather than extractive as it scales. This requires ongoing collaboration between scientists, farmers, and regulators to adapt practices as we learn more about these complex marine systems. The development of reliable carbon markets represents another crucial challenge for the seaweed industry. For seaweed farming to reach its full potential as a climate solution, farmers need to be compensated for the ecosystem services they provide beyond just the physical crop they harvest. Current carbon credit systems are poorly adapted to quantifying and verifying marine carbon sequestration, creating financial barriers to scaling. Innovative financial mechanisms that value the full range of ecosystem services seaweed farms provide, from carbon sequestration to improved water quality and increased biodiversity, could unlock significant investment in the sector. Some pioneering companies are already developing methods to accurately measure and verify the carbon sequestration of seaweed farms, working with international certification bodies to create standards that could eventually allow seaweed farmers to participate in global carbon markets. Despite these challenges, a global movement around seaweed cultivation is gaining momentum. International collaborations between scientists, entrepreneurs, environmentalists, and policymakers are accelerating innovation and knowledge sharing. The World Seaweed Congress now attracts thousands of participants from dozens of countries, while major environmental organizations have begun advocating for seaweed farming as a nature-based climate solution. Even the United Nations has recognized seaweed's potential, including it in blue carbon initiatives and sustainable development programs. This growing recognition is attracting attention from major investors and corporations seeking sustainable solutions and carbon offsets. As more resources flow into the sector, the pace of innovation continues to accelerate, creating a virtuous cycle of development. From small-scale farmers in coastal villages to multinational corporations and government agencies, diverse stakeholders are finding common ground in seaweed's remarkable potential. At its core, the seaweed revolution represents a profound shift in how we view and interact with our oceans. For centuries, humanity has approached the sea primarily as a source of extraction, taking fish, minerals, and other resources with little thought to replenishment or ecosystem health. Seaweed cultivation offers a different model, one where human activity actually enhances rather than depletes marine environments. This regenerative approach aligns economic incentives with ecological health, potentially transforming our relationship with 70% of our planet's surface. The swaying underwater forest of kelp and other seaweeds offer us not just practical solutions to environmental challenges, but a new paradigm for how humanity might live in harmony with natural systems. As climate change and other environmental pressures intensify, this shift from extraction to regeneration may prove essential not just for ocean health, but for human prosperity and survival. The humble seaweed, once overlooked by much of the world, now stands at the intersection of our most pressing environmental and economic challenges. Its remarkable ability to sequester carbon while requiring no land, fresh water, or fertilizers positions it as a uniquely powerful climate solution. Beyond carbon capture, seaweed farming actively restores marine ecosystems, filters pollutants, buffers coastlines, and creates sustainable livelihoods for communities worldwide. The innovations emerging from this blue revolution, from biodegradable packaging to methane-reducing feed additives, demonstrate how working with nature rather than against it can yield solutions to seemingly intractable problems. As we face the dual crises of climate change and biodiversity loss, seaweed offers us not just practical tools but a fundamental reimagining of our relationship with the ocean. The challenges ahead are substantial, requiring coordinated action across sectors and borders. But in the gently swaying underwater forests of kelp and other seaweeds, we may have found not just a solution to environmental degradation, but a blueprint for a more harmonious and sustainable future, one where human activities enhance rather than deplete the natural systems upon which we all depend. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. Your feedback is appreciated. We hope to see you again.